Welcome back. We're having a bit of a laugh off air because I'm joined by somebody who I look forward to having a pretty intriguing conversation with about business. We're getting into business as usual, and today is all about innovation. Now, naturally, the true mark of a potentially successful business idea is in how groundbreaking and life-changing it could be to its consumers. So we've seen the rise of innovative ventures over time in the business world, and today we discuss some of these innovative concepts on the continent. So joining me is our business editor, Abby Owolawi. Good morning, Ms. Abby.
Morning,
How are you doing today?
Very well, thank you.
All right, let's get straight into it. Now, with the fourth industrial revolution, we think innovation on a global scale, and we're thinking about robots and tech and disruption.
Yeah.
What does innovation look like on the African continent? Because I don't know, maybe call me skeptical or cynical, but I don't think innovation in Africa is totally centered around technology just yet.
Absolutely, and I think that is such a very good place to start. I think we should begin with what really is innovation. You use the words buzzwords, breakthrough, disruption, and really those are the buzzwords around. So a lot of people just think, a great new idea is an innovation, which is really, when you actually look at the dictionary, that's what it would tell you, a great new idea or concept, that will change lives and what have you. But people confuse an invention with innovation.
Ooh,
those are two different terms. So when we talk in invention, it could be a great idea. It could be something that could be a breakthrough in a certain field, medical, agriculture, what have you. But it does not become innovation until it adds value to a certain new group. It completely displaces an existing market in terms of it changing how the users that are currently in there perceive that product or idea. So for it to be completely groundbreaking, it has to shift an existing market. It has to change the way you think about that product. It has to be something that gets you to say, why has nobody ever thought about that? Why is this only happening now? Wow, what a fantastic way to approach a new solution. And in Africa, there are very few of such really innovative companies, but at the same time, we're celebrating that a few of them actually exist.
Who are some of the few who you feel are notable? Because I've just realized that I've been looking at inventions as innovations this whole time. So who are some of the African businesses that stand out?
At the very top of my head, M-Pesa, which is a Safaricom product. M-Pesa changed, it was the very first SMS-based money transfer service in Kenya. It has changed the way Kenyans transfer money. When you're in Nairobi, you're in an Uber, you just make your payment and you're gone, and it's something that has been there. It's stood the test of time. It'll be interesting to see who will come and innovate and displace M-Pesa, because then that would be a completely different shift. We've also seen the rise of other similar products that have in terms of the rise of mobile money. M-Pesa was really at the forefront of that. But the sustainability of it is really what keeps an innovation in the market. If you're not able to commercially scale it, it begins to die. It kind of goes back to being an invention.
Okay, but so talking about scaling and sustainability, immediately I sort of, especially when you talk about M-Pesa, that's an iconic example, because you immediately see other market players following suit.
Absolutely.
So, how do we feel as a response, medium and long-term response to innovations in the African continent, to one another? Because it seems to, does it cease to be an innovation? Because at that point, there's a group of you, you look at the ride-hailing services in Nigeria, for example, on the bike. And initially it was, wow, what a great solution, but now there's 100 players in the field. And
I think that is such an amazing question, Bimbai, because I think for a company to truly innovate, it has to almost come to the point where it's okay with just being a pioneer.
Okay.
Because you can almost not hug the fact that people will not imitate. And in fact, it's almost a test of how creative your invention has become, that you've opened the room for other players to sort of want to adapt it to their different markets. Where a company would be very smart would be to really capitalize on that and own the rights in as many different markets as possible right at the beginning. In terms of control as to who else would not want to copy it, or I'm not going to use the word copy actually, who else have you not sort of inspired to adapt that for a market? And a good example would be what Uber, which I feel is a very disruptive, a completely disruptive.
Total pioneer.
They were a total pioneer. We've seen the rise of Yegomoto in Rwanda. Yegomoto is sort of like a ride-hailing app for motorbikes. And because if you go to Kigali, you see lots of these little that's what they're called, and they've completely changed how people are ordering or you don't have to go stand in front of or try to hail one physically. You can just do it from me, and that's something that Uber inspired. The entire now, does Uber have a right to come in and say, "Who are you, Yegomoto?" They've adapted it to the market. So control is a bit of an issue there.
So, but where does the intellectual property play a role in this? Because, I had an intriguing conversation with a friend of mine she's founded a platform called Bookings Africa, which is supposed to be a digital booking platform for creatives across Africa, right? Yeah. And she's saying that, well, listen, I don't want to partner with any of these big corporates because before you know it, they use the 2-year incubation period to just study my blueprint, and then they roll out their own on a bigger scale because they have more money. Which naturally, if you have a good idea, people are going to roll it out. But how do you protect sort of the DNA? Because at the crux of it, for example, Uber is still Uber. There's so many that have followed, but there's still something about Uber that maybe is possibly first mover advantage. I'm not sure, but how do we, in the African context, so it's notorious for replicating one another's ideas and concepts. Is it really possible to even protect your IP, or do you just have to accept that at some point it's a free for all?
There are ways around it, and I'm going to start by saying an idea is only an idea until it's about who runs with it first. Unfortunately, so we've had so many issues around intellectual property. It is such a technical area, really, because Vimbai could come to me and say, I have this fantastic idea, which really is very brilliant, but Abby has the power to move that idea into an innovation very quickly, quicker than you, and then who gets the right of at the end of the day, everyone then just remembers Abby. Completely unfair, but the ways to get around it is basically follow all the legal criteria. Patents are very, very important. People always underestimate that. Copyrights. Before you share your idea with people, own your copyrights. I always say that. Always just make sure you've protected yourself. Protect your idea.
Is this enough in our market, Abby?
Unfortunately, it's a very fragmented market here. We're not seeing so much adherence to rules and guidelines, and it's a matter of first movers, really, and who's got the financial muscle to move it into the market very quickly. There are some legal ramifications for that if you have followed a few of your copyright moves. I mean, at the end of the day, maybe not as aggressive as you would see in the Western markets, but it just helps to at least protect yourself from the beginning, from the onset.
So looking at all of these, it definitely, speed, but I believe speed is it's kind of it plays into the formula where money is involved with regards to rolling out your innovation. What does the future of African innovation look like? Understanding now, I understand that there are several African ideas, several African inventions. How many of them are actually, bankable, profitable businesses? And how many of them are growing and scaling? It's a whole other conversation. So what's the future of innovation? Are the conditions conducive? And what do we maybe need to tweak in a market where we can't easily access venture capitalists? We can't easily go to the bank and get the funding.
It's a very hard market to crack here. Some a little more lenient than others. You would say Kenya has been they're very innovative in terms of how they've been able to turn ideas, and they also have a very conducive environment to allow, I'm not going to use the word entrepreneurs because that's also been a little flogged, to allow ideators thrive. And that being said, it's still not aggressive enough because if you look at what is happening in the States, I mean, look at what Facebook did. It was really just a sort of like something that a few friends were playing around with, but the environment allowed those kinds of ideas, be it as playful as let's just test something, to thrive in terms of protecting it, in terms of allowing institutionalized investment come into it in a very, very safe environment, which is also very key because people just go with whatever who's doling out money, I'll get it because I need investment. But then that could also be what kills the idea, because let's not forget that until you find value for the customer, let's put it this way. If I think of an idea that is so appealing to me, it is not really appealing until I see it beautifully executed.
True.
Until I sit in my home, you've literally not beaten me across the head for me, and I just want to find out more about it. So it's in the execution. It's also about the communication of the perception of that brand to the actual users of it. It doesn't matter if you only have 10 users in the world. These are going to be your 10 users that will change the perception of that product. So in Africa, yes, I'm very excited about what could actually happen in terms of there's so many bright minds, many bright ideas, but the worrying part, of course, which we really all hope would change over time, and I think those conversations are beginning to happen, would be we need a conducive environment to allow ideators thrive.
Okay, on that note, I think that's the bottom line. We do need a conducive environment. Abby, thank you so much for this. Very insightful. Actually, I was taking mental notes. I will not call an invention an innovation again. Say it with me at home. Guys, that was Abby Olawe, our business editor right here on News Central. It's time for us to get into the wonderful world of sports. But first of all, we'll take this break. See you shortly.